And I think that's the problem with the American people. It's hard to wrap your head around. Like, so there's one guy, there's somebody out there, or a group of people that are like, we know that babies are dying. We know that people are having abortion. We know people are having spinal bifida, and we don't care. And I think it's hard for people to wrap their minds around that. You've met these people. How do they live with themselves?
Oh, I was approached by a family. They had a boy who was 8 years old, and he had his name was Zachary McConnell, and he was 8 years old, and he had a glioblastoma, a brain tumor. All right, he had gone through radiation, he'd gone through chemotherapy, and the tumor kept growing, and there was no hope for him. In the course of going through the radiation and chemo, though, he lost half his body weight. The pressure in his brain was so intense and the pain that he would bash his head against the wall, even with NSAIDs and other painkillers. His parents, out of desperation, contacted a doctor in Texas, Dr. Brzezinski, and put him in the Brzezinski clinic that had an experimental drug for reducing and eliminating brain tumors. He goes down there. He gets into the clinical trial by the grace of that doctor. They start giving him this drug. He has no adverse effects to it like he had to the radiation and chemo, and the tumor starts shrinking. And you could see it on the MRIs. This tumor is shrinking. And then they get a call from the FDA. And the FDA says that this is a clinical trial with a protocol that he doesn't meet. He doesn't fit the criteria for admission into the trial. You are illegally allowing him in the trial. You must immediately discontinue the treatments. You must send him back to have more chemo and radiation, which is the FDA approved treatment. All right, the parents come to me in absolute desperation. The child was forced out of the clinical trial, and the tumor's growing in his head. And they came to me and they said, our child is going to die. And not only that, the only treatments we can give him are the ones that cause him to lose half his body weight and to suffer pain. We're not going to put him through that misery. We're not going to have him die in absolute agony. No way. He's an 8-year-old boy. So I call up the FDA head of oncology that made the decision on this issue. He was named Dr. DeLapp. And I said to him, hey, look, I have an 8-year-old boy with a brain tumor that was shrinking under Dr. Brzezinski's treatment, and you took him off that treatment. That is absolutely unacceptable. There's no moral way you can justify that in your head, I'm sure. And I'm going to tell you something. This is not going to stand. We cannot allow this to happen, and I'm going to hold you to account for this. So I want you to tell me to my face that you're not going to allow this boy who will otherwise die an agonizing death the opportunity to receive a treatment that was working, regardless of what the criteria were for admission into this trial. In this particular case, this boy, Zachary McConnell, was having his brain tumor treated and it was succeeding. Put him back on there. What's wrong with you? And what does he say to me? Well, we have professional staff that evaluate these things, and they have recommended to us that this boy not continue to receive treatment because he doesn't meet the protocol for admission into the clinical trial. If we change this in this one instance, we'd have to do it in all other instances like this. We can't do this. We have to have the integrity of the drug approval process protected. And I said, nonsense about the integrity of the drug approval process, whatever that means. This is real. If your own child had a brain tumor, you mean to tell me that if you went to Brzezinski and it was working to reduce your own child's brain tumor, that for the integrity of the drug approval process, you would put him back on what you knew didn't work and would kill him? And you take away any chance of survival?
Jonathan, did you win this case? I need to know now. Like, did you win this case?
Yeah, right. Let me know.
Well, this is what happened. So then I go to Dan Burton, who is the head of the Government Reform and Oversight Committee in Congress.